The story is called Bees and Vietnamese. And it was August 10th in the summer of 1995. It was some crazy year for me. It was a more of a crazy year, but yet an artistic year for me. But it was also a lonely year. I was barely awakened one morning from sleeping very late the night before. I lived with my parents and my younger brother in the slum neighborhoods of San Fernando after moving from our old house in the hills that my parents had bought 10 years ago, which was destroyed by the Northridge earthquake. The telephone rang. Kring, kring, and I picked it up. As I looked at the clock, that was 8 a.m. It was my friend Naco, ready to go paintball shooting. He was excited to go because soon he had to get prepared to go to the Marines. Paintball shooting was a good practice for him, he said. Hey man, ready to go shooting? I said, alright man. After I took a shower, I drank my coffee. It was like our normal morning, sort of chilly, and I drank some hot coffee. And I sparked up a cigarette. And I walked down the slum neighborhood street to the gang's hideout place, where I was supposed to meet Naco. Right there, about 3 of the gang members were smoking marijuana, and I joined in. I had only smoked one water pipe though, which was enough to make me crazy, and they passed this big old bong to me, and I was smoking this bong. And it was like one big hit, and it got me pretty stoned. From right there, Naco had already arrived, and then both of us took off, speeding up the slum streets. We stopped by the market to buy the cheapest bread and ham for our lunch. Naco was prepared to play, wearing a green shirt and army pants, and he also gave me an army shirt so I could have some camouflage. Thinking in my mind, I was pretty nervous, but about this paintball game, which I never played before. I wonder how bad it would hurt to get hit by a paintball, and was soon to find out. But most of all, I was scared to be accused of being a Vietnamese or being called a Viet Cong, in which I am neither. There was so much ignorance of the war in Vietnam that I felt something was bound to happen. So, as we were going to this place, there seemed to be some kind of stereotype. And we finally arrived at the paintball place. The sign read Fields of Fire. It was only $35 to get in for the whole entire day, which was about 10 games, each game lasting 20 minutes, and $5 more for ammunition. I was still nervous, but Naco was not. This was his 5th time playing this game. I looked around and there was dots of paint everywhere. The game was about to start. There was about 15 people for each team. There were the red and blue armband teams. Naco and I were in the red team. A lot of players were white Vietnam veterans on the red team, and I was scared to shit. But without telling what nationality I was, it didn't matter to them anyways. I told them I was on their side, just to feel relieved, so they wouldn't give me a dirty look. On the other team, the blue armbands, were probably 7 or 8 Vietnamese people. I knew this because of their bouncing ball language that they spoke to each other, and moving their eyes from side to side in a high-tempered manner. Ever since my childhood, from about 5 years old, I had never got along with Vietnamese people. They would try to threaten me, and the rest of the blue team were some Russians on the Vietnamese side, which was a blue team. The game was going to start in 1 minute. I looked around the place, and there were many trees and bushes, bunkers, houses, and underground paths. My gun was packed with 100 paintballs. The referee blew the whistle, and I ran up the nearest bunker. Gunshots began to blast. They were like these gunshots that, paintball gunshots. And there was like some bombs, that they would light, and it would explode some paint. And man, and Naco the Crazy was somewhere out of my sight. I then ran up the hill to the bushes. I was getting confused as paintballs were passing by my sight, going 100 miles per hour. I paused on the ground by the bush, thinking no one would see me, and then suddenly, I got shot in the neck. It didn't hurt so much. It felt more like putting a slingshot on your skin and fleeing. The first game was over. The second game started. This time I ran directly up the mountain near the thick trees and bushes, while the blue team were on the opposite direction. The enemy advanced as I heard shooting nearby, and so I went on towards the sound. I hid on the floor and spotted a Vietnamese turning his back, shooting at another person. So I shot him a couple of times, and he was out of the game. Next, I ran down the hill near another bush. I heard movement nearby and spotted another Vietnamese. This time it was a woman, walking blindly down the hill, so I shot her. The game went on from round 2 to round 8. I had killed many Vietnamese so far. I was so exhausted and sweat all over my clothes during the hot day of the summer. I was strong-willed to run down a steep hill and jump down around an area. I stopped and heard noises above me and looked up at a beehive. I said, "Oh shit," and dropped my gun. I ran down further down to the safety zone. And there was like some boys, helped me pull out five bees that had just stung my head. I was in pain, screaming. My brain started to become numb and tingly. I felt retarded, thinking to myself I was going to have brain damage. Nowadays, every once in a while, I could still feel numbness in my brain. When it occurs, I seem to black out for a while, and I have to sit down, or otherwise I will fall down. My right eye will look up while the left eye becomes droopy. Then the eyes start to turn watery, and it's hard to control the brain. My whole head will become steamy. But maybe this might be good for the mind. I believe it releases some kind of moisture or enzyme from the bee's chemical. This might increase my metabolism of thinking process. Then I would get schizophrenic of Vietnamese people. And that was the end of bees and Vietnamese. And to this day, I still get when I still feel this effect, I start to get paranoid or schizophrenic of Vietnamese people. It's almost like I have been to the war, but actually I wasn't. It was only reacting to the Vietnam War.